Welcome to the Graphical Podcast, and my name is Bailey Hagan, and I will be your host for this week's show. Thank you for all tuning in and taking time out of your day to listen to the Graphical Podcast. In this week's show, I will be discussing with you about what graphic design is, and then I will be discussing about what got me into graphic design, and finally I will be discussing with you why people should get into graphic design. Now, without further ado, let's get straight into the Graphical Podcast. So, for the first topic today, what is graphic design? Well, on the Graphical Podcast, we discuss everything from graphic design to Photoshop to Adobe After Effects. And for those wondering, what is graphic design? Well, what it is basically, graphic design is where you design something called online using images, text, audio from a wide variety of sources, and you can use them to create in something called Adobe Photoshop or Adobe After Effects. Most graphics designers use this software to create something for a product or a company, and graphic design can also be used in TV and film. And it's because if it wasn't for graphics design, we wouldn't get the big budget films from Star Wars, the Avengers series. We wouldn't have gotten those films or many films at all if it wasn't for graphics design. So that is what graphics design basically is in the advertising and film industry and TV industries, and that's what graphics design is all about. So that's what graphic design is basically. Now that I discussed what is graphics design, it's time that I talk personally about why I love graphics design and my inspirations behind why I love it are. So, the reason I love graphics design is because I really love the sheer enjoyment of designing and creating stuff using Photoshop, because on Photoshop they have really creative tools and they help me create the best logos basically, and it never gives me any problems, does Photoshop, even though it does now and again. It's still something I love to work on, and it's one of the many reasons I love graphics design. But personally, the main reason I love graphics design is because there is loads of stuff that I am able to create, all thanks to technology, because if it wasn't for the technical advancements of today, I wouldn't be here today talking about graphic design if it wasn't for technology. But mainly the true and honest reason I like graphics design is because I am able to create personal and promotional stuff for people and companies, and designing the stuff for them, and doing that gives me the sense of enjoyment when doing something graphics related, and that is why I love graphics design. Now, however, despite the many roles there are in graphics design industry, there are not many people taking up the roles. Because, for example, it could either be due to the long work hours. Mainly, not many people are studying graphics design at the moment, and it's because of this. Some companies are training people to work in the graphics industry and work for their companies. This is a problem that needs to be sorted, and this is why people should get jobs in graphics design. I think the reason why we need more people in graphics design is because that loads of graphics designers go to work and then after a few years they go self-employed, and that is putting an impact for the film industry, and that's why I think these problems are causing the big issues in the graphics industry in this moment of time. So that's why, so whether it's a small hobby for people or I think it's a good idea to have a look at the many careers at what the graphics industry has to offer, and whether it's a hobby or just for fun, maybe consider getting a role in the industry, whether it's big or small. A role in the graphics industry will help decrease the problem, but not solve it, and that's why people should get involved in the industry. And that brings an end to this very short version of the Graphical Podcast. Yes, I did rush a bit, but that's me. I really hope you enjoyed this edition as much as I have recorded it, and all that's left to say is thank you for watching the Graphical Podcast. Thank you and goodbye.